When I heard that the team behind Point Salad and Calico had a new card game, it piqued my interest. When I heard that it was about collecting runs of numbers of different colors with a push your luck and auction mechanism, not to mention 3 forms of currency to acquire your cards, well, honestly, I wasn't sure how that was going to work. But it does in 10, the 1 to 5 player push your luck auction set collection card game from AEG, who helped sponsor this video. Now, I don't usually start at the end, but for this game, I think it's important. I'm going to tell you what you're trying to do before I tell you how you're trying to do it. As I said, you want to collect runs of numbers of different colors. So here's an example of cards you might acquire by the end of the game. You'll score 1 point for each card in your longest consecutive sequence in each color. So in this case, your blue would score 6 points, your pink would score 5 points, orange would score 3, and green would score 9, plus 1 bonus point for having a full run of green cards. All this for a grand total of 24 points. Got it? I hope so, because it's going to make the rest of this make a lot more sense if you do. Now, before I tell you how to get all those cards, let's take a look at the various cards you'll find in the deck and the other components on the table. These are examples of the number cards, and you'll acquire these in a couple different ways. They're obviously vital to what you're trying to accomplish in the game, so you need to get some. There are also, of course, some wild cards, and there are 3 types. You'll see numbered wild cards, which can serve as the indicated number for any color. There are also these wild cards, which can be used as any number, but for the indicated color. And then there are the special wild cards, which, you guessed it, can be used as any number and any color. Finally are the currency cards. They come in values of 1 to 5 and reward currency tokens to spend during auctions and when buying cards in the market. How do auctions in the market work? Well, I think the best way to explain how everything works is to just take a turn, show you how it might play out, and hopefully explain everything as we go. Let's pretend that this is my first turn of the game. We've got the deck, I've got my 5 currency tokens, plus there's a general supply on the table. And finally, there are the bust tokens. Like I said, this is a push your luck game. And while you will lose out on some things when you bust, you will get a bust token, which is effectively a value 3 currency token. However, you cannot make change with the black currency tokens. These bust tokens are what they are and can be used as currency, but not freely exchanged for currency. So the structure of your turn might play out in a couple different ways, and the rulebook and the player reference have a handy flowchart that will help guide you through it. You will always complete a card draw phase, which will end in either busting or taking a reward, and may even pause in the event an auction comes up. Let's just play. After you flip over your first card, it's time for a decision. Do you want to stop and take the reward or push your luck and flip another card? Now, one of the ways you can bust is if after you've flipped a card, your net total is 11 or greater. So for example, if my next card is an 8 or a 9, I'm in trouble. But let's go for it. All right, I'm safe. My net total is 8. If I were smart, I'd stop now, but I can't resist. Plus, I may have stacked the deck for demonstration purposes. So I'm just going to flip another. And we have our first currency card. For the purposes of the card draw phase, these cards subtract from the net total of the cards flipped. So my new net total is 3. 8 minus 5. Let's push it. It's our first wild card. And as soon as a wild card is revealed, the active player's turn is immediately interrupted and it goes up for auction. Starting with the player to the left of the active player, each player around the table is going to either bid or pass. And then the active player is going to have the last option to bid or pass as well. The highest bid is going to win the card, and that player will add it to their player area. When you bid, there are 3 different sources you can consider as currency. The currency tokens, of course, any bust tokens you might have, which are a value of 3, and also cards that you've already acquired, each of which count as a value of 1. So if a perfect wild card comes up for a player, they might consider sacrificing more than you expect to try and grab it. And once the auction is over, the active player then resumes their turn. The next card is also a currency card, and it brings the net total back down to 0. You'd think you have nothing to lose by flipping another card, but there's a second way to bust. If your flipped cards ever show a total value of 11 or more currency, you will also bust. So let's say, for the moment, I stopped here and took a reward. I have two options. I could take the 3 and the 5 and add them to my personal play area. If I do that, every other player at the table receives currency tokens according to the value of the currency cards. Instead, I could choose the currency cards and take 8 currency tokens. If I do that, the currency cards are discarded and the number cards are added to a market. Regardless of which reward I choose, now I can move on to the buy phase, which is where I can purchase a card from the market at its face value. So for example, a 2 would cost 2 and an 8 would cost 8. And remember, I can use currency tokens, bust tokens, and even some of my cards to purchase that card. Now let's rewind and act like I continued to push my luck. If my next card was this, the cards would be showing 11 or more currency, and I would bust. I would get a bust token, the currency cards would be discarded, and the number cards would go to the market. If instead of that card, I pushed a couple times and then busted with my total net value, the exact same thing would happen, but even worse. Every other player would receive the currency tokens equal to the value on the discarded currency cards. And no matter which way I bust, I also forfeit my buy phase this turn. So you really don't want to bust. At the end of your turn, play is going to pass to the player on your left, and the game will continue around the table until the last card is drawn from the deck. The active player will finish their turn, and then every player at the table will get one last buy phase. And that's 10. I've had a chance to play this game a few times now, and I will give you one warning. Beware of the 2-card bust. It can happen, and it will happen. Don't be ashamed to take a single card either. Sometimes grabbing an 8 or a 9 that is flipped first can be the best route to go, as the higher cards are harder to come by. And remember, a duplicate card in your play area is just another form of currency waiting to be spent. Be sure to check out their Kickstarter for more information, but if you have any questions, please make them in the comments below and we'll answer what we can. Until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then. Congratulations, you got to the end of one of our videos. Now, if you want more practice, just click on the video over here. It's another video. You might not have seen it yet, so click on it. If you don't want to do that, at least click on the subscription button below. That always helps us. And if you want notifications, please ring that bell.